We watched The Fellowship of the Ring.
Not just an ordinary movie.
Really, hopefully we come down to why this movie is so special.
Don't you leave him Samwise Gamgee. And I don't mean to. Everybody needs a Sam. That makes any kind of sense. Yeah, in real, like, I truly do mean that. Do you ever, any manly tears? Ever get any manly tears while watching this?
That one gets me. We get to what is undoubtedly the best scene Gandalf has in the entire trilogy.
Amen.
There are other forces at work in this world, Frodo, besides the will of evil. Bilbo was meant to find the ring, in which case you were also meant to have it. And that is an encouraging thought.
Oh, hello, Farmer Maggot. Green Dragon later.
I thought you punched in the coordinates to the Navi computer.
I did punch them in.
Well,
What do you want?
Great job.
How is it my fault?
Well, look around. Where even are we?
I'll be real, I'm not sure.
Awesome. Good work.
Hey, I think I found something. Huh. A ring.
Welcome back to Beyond the Dune Sea, where we are far outside that galaxy far, far away into the rolling green hills of the Shire. My name is Konnor. Seth.
And I'm Seth. I'm Seth.
You all right there?
I'm great. How are you?
Doing okay.
Yeah.
Hey, that's nice.
It
Where'd you
is.
find that?
Found it outside the Falcon.
It's quite cool.
It's quite. Thank you.
Yeah. Neat.
Yeah.
Nice of the locals to hook us up with some fresh digs so we blend in a little bit.
Exactly. We don't want to look weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't want to look weird.
Exactly.
So today we watched The Fellowship of the Ring.
Not just an ordinary movie.
Some might call it a perfect movie,
I think a lot of you at home thought it was a perfect movie.
which you guys made us so proud with that, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
If you don't know what we're talking about, check out last week's episode about the perfect movie. And
Yeah.
we had a bit of an audience participation there.
Mm-hmm.
So usually what we do out Beyond the Dune Sea, when we talk about a new property, whether it be a TV show or movie, we do 1-minute reviews at the start before we get into our takeaways. But Fellowship and Lord of the Rings is a little special.
it is. How do you do like a 3-hour movie in 1 minute?
And how do we break down really what is essentially a perfect movie, a timeless story,
Yes.
into 1 hour of us babbling back and forth,
Yes.
saying things that everybody's heard a million times?
Yeah.
So we're going to try to tackle this a little bit differently.
We
And
are.
to start it out, we have a little bit more than a 1-minute review.
Yeah. We just both decided that we were going to just talk just individually about the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
And it's still a review, but I mean, it's probably a little bit more than 1 minute.
well, our review
Yes.
to start, and then we'll get
Yes.
into, I guess, to tease going forward.
Mhm.
Our breakdown will, rather than be 5 takeaways, be breaking down one scene with each of the Fellowship members.
Yes.
And there's a whole lot to talk about
Yes.
within that mix. And really,
And-
hopefully, we come down to why this movie is so special.
Yes. And then also a couple honorable mentions
Yes.
because there's a couple cool characters that aren't technically part of the Fellowship, but
Bill
they're
the
great.
Pony.
He's the 10th member.
Yeah.
I mean, I keep telling you.
You think he got the tattoo? The horse actor?
Probably.
Yeah.
Probably still has it.
Yeah, good. I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah. And then fan questions after that.
And then, of course, fan questions
Yes.
at the very end. So stick around.
Yes.
Hit me with your written review.
Written review. Bear with me. What can I honestly say that hasn't been said about this film? As we said last week, they truly don't make them like this anymore. I really do think this is a once-in-a-lifetime film. I think this is a beautiful blend of practical effects, CGI where it's needed, and brilliant filmmaking that help capture that lightning in a bottle. It's crazy how I've grown to appreciate this film in different ways as I've grown. When I was a young lad, I used to think this stuff was all about big battles and boss fights, but there's so much more to these films. This film, in particular, really shines in those quiet moments with scenes like Bilbo's birthday party or Gandalf and Frodo talking in the mines of Moria. I think that what makes this special, though, is that you can see the passion and the sincerity that went into this thing. And also that like trying to stay true to the writer and the source material at the exact same time. Everything from the acting, design, and music, everything's incredible.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
I completely agree. I like what you said about staying true to Tolkien.
Yeah.
I think that's something that's so important about this. It's like Jackson, I think, was so humble in the way that he approached these movies.
Yeah.
And there's a quote from him from one of the DVD commentaries, I think, where he says that these were Tolkien's movies. Yeah. They're not Jackson's movies.
Yeah.
And I think that that's such a humble way to approach an adaptation of a book. And I think that's why these resonate so much.
Well, it's interesting too, because like he had every opportunity to put something in, a little piece of himself in there.
Yeah.
And yes, he physically is in these movies at different spots, but like the themes, it's all true to the books and true to the author.
Like So Uncivilized, a channel that we've talked about before, excellent channel that just put out a great Lord of the Rings breakdown, has pointed out where Jackson wanted to put dialogue in the movies that wasn't previously in a scene that he was adapting. He would take other words from Tolkien. So Éowyn may get a line from Faramir.
Yeah.
And Aragorn may get a line from Gandalf. And
so it still sounds like Tolkien because it is Tolkien.
And so that's why these films, I think, have such a DNA. It's so beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, I also wrote something. That galaxy far, far away doesn't have paper.
No.
This is a nice change of pace.
Yes. We don't have to use our phones.
And speaking of the words of J.R.R. Tolkien.
You decide to start with a quote?
Starting with a quote. The story maker proves a successful sub-creator. He makes a secondary world which your mind can enter. Inside it, what he relates is true. It accords with the laws of that world. You therefore believe it, while you are, as it were, inside. The moment disbelief arises, the spell is broken, the magic, or rather art, has failed. And if that doesn't already sum up these movies, that the spell never breaks.
They're sincere. It's important.
It is.
Yeah.
And rarely does a film come along where every frame is a painting, every sound whisks you away to a new world, and every word resonates with wisdom, profundity, and soul. Few movies have truly captured the essence of an entirely different world, but The Fellowship of the Ring manages the impossible. For 208 minutes, or 223 minutes if you watch the extended editions, you are fully transported to Middle-earth. The magic of this film lies in its ability to engage all five senses. It feels as though you could touch the grass of the Shire, the cold stones of the mines of Moria, or even the cool waters of Galadriel's mirror. Much of this is due to the brilliant filmmaking of Peter Jackson and his crew. Part of that brilliance is how unexpectedly it arrives. It's not like sitting down at a Michelin-starred restaurant where you expect the meal to meet or even exceed your expectations. No, what Jackson has achieved is something far more elusive, like Tolkien. He captures the feeling of going to your grandmother's house on a bright Sunday afternoon where the family gathers for a home-cooked meal. The love, laughter, and warmth of the table are something that could never be replicated nor taught. It is that feeling that the Fellowship of the Ring brings to that table. At its heart, we owe the magic of this film to the man behind the words, guy at the top, J.R.R. Tolkien himself. He crafted a timeless story with messages that resonate across all ages and all walks of life. The story of the Fellowship is about the strength of friendship, even in the face of the darkest turmoil. Should we bear the evils and sins of ourselves and our families alone? Or should we be equally yoked with those closest to us to take on the most frightening of challenges? In those moments, we find true beauty, our ability to help, comfort, and save one another. And despite the wickedness and evil in the world, Gandalf the Grey gently reminds us there are other forces at work in this world, Frodo, besides the will of evil. And that is an encouraging thought.
Good quote.
It is a great quote.
Mm-hmm.
And so that really encapsulates our overall feelings, I think, of this movie. And what a beautiful movie it really is.
Yeah.
I mean, gosh, every time I watch it, I mean, you can pull a frame from this movie and it's like you're transported to this other world. And what other movie can do that? I mean, truly, what other movie? There are very few.
I was going to say, we had some good movies up here too.
Yeah.
Not to give, there's still some other really
but
awesome
even
movies.
in my favorite movie, Indiana Jones, I don't think that, because it's our world. you know?
Oh, I gotcha.
Or like
A New Hope.
A New Hope. I think that does, but not quite in the same way.
Yeah.
Lord of the Rings is tangible.
Yeah.
In a way that I've never seen a movie replicate.
Yeah.
Like when I was rewatching it for this, because I rewatched them maybe about 6 months ago or so, not that long ago. I was immediately struck with Gandalf arriving in the Shire. And it's like everything is so real because my filmmaking brain was trying to kick on. And I'm like, what's fake here?
Yeah.
But it truly feels like everything is real.
I mean, they built all that.
I know,
Yeah.
and most of it is. And
Yeah.
that's why it's so good. There's something in your brain, the uncanny valley that can always pick out, subconsciously, you know. And as much as I love Star Wars, unfortunately, and a lot of that is CGI, and your brain doesn't have that same thing that clicks on.
Yeah.
But when you watch Fellowship, or any of the Lord of the Rings movies for that matter,
You get lost in it.
you really just start paying attention to Gandalf lighting off fireworks, or Bilbo's birthday party, like you mentioned. It all feels so real, and you believe every second of it, just like Tolkien said. Like, that's the importance of telling a story.
Yeah.
The spell cannot be broken. Gosh, it's so good.
Frodo running to meet Gandalf really gets me. That little, I'm not even sure, that little flute that's playing as he runs down, yo late, that gets me. Like, it's like, we're back, baby. Like, as much as I love, or I'm back, I guess, I don't know, that as much as I love the prologue is one of my favorite scenes in this whole movie. It's just like, all right, here we are. Like this feels now that it's like, all right, we're here now.
And I wonder where that all comes from. Like if it's really the lightning in a bottle of everything coming together, or that cast just has tremendous chemistry.
I think they have chemistry. I think that Howard Shore is tearing it up.
Yeah.
Like, I think that that's also part of it. I think that it's just everything all firing on all cylinders.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that even using the doubles, the body doubles, and using the force perspective and stuff like that.
It's seamless.
A lot of
seamless.
Yes.
I was watching for it, and I could not really pick out a moment where I could tell.
Yeah.
It's incredible what they were able to accomplish with like the scene when Gandalf enters Bilbo's home for the first time and Bilbo walks in front of him. It's like, I know they did that with green screen, but man, you can't tell.
No, I was going to say they shot it at different points. Yeah, it's kind of crazy.
Yeah, I watched, because I always watch when it's green screen, I look at the hair.
Yeah.
I'm like, let me be able to tell. And you can really tell when something's green screen if you really pay attention to the hair. I could not with Bilbo. I was like, I could see individual strands. How are they doing that? That's incredible. Like there's a scene in Return of the Jedi, for example, when they're on the skiffs.
Yeah.
And
well, you're going to die out here. That part,
and you could just, you can see because it like there's artifacting and like the hair kind of blends together.
With
the green screen. And oh man, they do it so well in this movie. It's incredible. A
lot of love.
That's one of the other pieces of magic from this movie is how, gosh, you look at we could talk all day long about how these movies were made. But it's truly like Jackson didn't think he was going to be able to make a trilogy, but he fought for it. And the pre-production that went into these movies. And that's really the difference between these and The Hobbit, for example.
Yes.
A lot of people give Jackson a hard time for The Hobbit, but it's not really his fault. He came in at the last minute, the 11th hour, because Guillermo del Toro was going to direct those.
Yeah.
There was like less than a year of pre-production for those. Where there was like, 3 years of pre-production for Fellowship?
Yes. Almost as much. Yeah. For filming itself. Like, no, they film over a year, all three of them. But like pre-production was insane. Like it was like 3 or 4 years. So yeah.
Incredible. So the Fellowship of the Ring, that means something. It's the Fellowship of the Ring. 9 members.
9 companions.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So we have assembled 9 scenes.
Because we can't just sit here and talk.
Because
we'll talk forever.
Otherwise, we'd just be like, wasn't this good? Wasn't that good?
Yeah, that was so cool. Yeah, we can't do that. Like,
that's boring.
It is.
So instead, let's break down the fellowship.
Yes.
And let's start with some of the members who maybe don't. Well, I guess first, we picked up a couple honorable mentions, didn't we?
Because, yes, that we didn't. These 2 are not members of the fellowship, but we felt like that they needed a moment or like a scene.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess I will start because my guy really is not a member of the fellowship at all. And you just mentioned the opening a moment ago.
Yes.
My first is the Dark Lord Sauron.
Bum, 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 bum.
Sigurd, he calls to you. Oh, put it away. Keep it secret. Keep it safe. Safe. So, very fascinating with Sauron because he's barely in the movie, but he's the main villain of the whole trilogy.
Yeah.
And I
love it.
It's great. And he's more of a force of nature than he is a character.
Yes.
But for a moment, he does get to be a character in the beginning of this movie.
Yes.
Where we get just an expertly told prologue that lays everything out.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing that's great about this is it's like they're tricking you into learning information.
Yeah.
So they'll show you the map that transitions into Mordor.
It shows you the path that they got to take and
exactly.
everything.
It's like, so now in your mind, you know the geography of the entire land, of all of Middle Earth.
Mm-hmm.
It's so good. Rather than just being like, oh, here it is, just like, and in the fires of Mount Doom,
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
And so you find out about the rings.
Yes, he creates the rings.
3 were given to the elves.
Yes, wisest and fairest of all beings. How fitting that Galadriel saying that.
Yes.
Yes.
And 7 to the dwarf lord.
Great miners and craftsmen.
And 9 were given to the race of men, who above all desire power. And then we get to, of course, the great line when it fades to black.
But all of them were deceived.
For another ring was made. That's so good.
It is good.
And you see the Dark Lord Sauron in the crack of doom forging the one ring.
Yeah.
And another thing that I love about what they did here, I love how simple the ring is, the one ring. Because you see all the rest of them. They're very ornate.
They're gaudy. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But the one ring is just unassuming.
Yeah.
It's just a gold band.
Yes. But in fire, it shows its true.
Yes.
Yeah, it's true identity.
Now that fire can tell. And that's because Sauron's hand is always burning.
Yeah.
And that's why it's always burning red hot.
Mm-hmm.
And he's wearing that infamous ironclad Morgul armor, if it's Morgul, I'm not sure.
Dude, I think that is probably the coolest piece of armor in all of fiction.
It's cool.
I'll go out on a limb and say that. It's my favorite piece of armor in all of fiction. Yes.
I love there's something about the hands that I love.
The gauntlets. Yeah. And again, I just like his helmet. I like how it's kind of a crown.
Mm-hmm.
And then when he first comes walking in, the music, bum, 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 and you hear that sound. As he just starts swinging his mace. Yeah.
I love how enigmatic the ring seems.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know what this thing does, really. It just gives you immense power. A lot of people make the mistake of thinking it makes you invisible. It does not. And that shows you kind of at the beginning that that's not what it does.
Yeah.
It sort of amplifies your greatest traits, right? That's part of it. Although I've heard debate on this, whether or not that's true or if it really does turn you invisible. Because part of the invisible thing is it takes you into the spirit world.
Yeah.
But I've also heard that that's something about hobbits. Hobbits are good at sort of.
But Isildur disappeared.
Did he?
You didn't watch? Yeah.
I didn't watch. It's been a while since I watched the extended editions.
Yes, he does. He disappears. And then when the ring goes off, that's when they can shoot him because they can see him.
Oh, okay. I haven't seen I haven't read the book in a little while. I wonder if it's the same as the book.
Mm-hmm.
If anybody out there is a big Tolkien nut, let me know. It's been a while since I've deep dived that.
Yeah.
But anyway, I know that you disappear because you're going into the spirit realm.
Yeah.
But yeah, you get to see him forging, smacking everybody about.
Yes.
And then he steps on Narsil.
Mm-hmm. And Isildur takes up his father's blade
and cuts off the hand.
Yes.
Very cool. So you in the book, which I'm going to try not to talk about the book too much, but there are a lot of really interesting differences. And Sauron is not that in the book. He's more of he's kind of just a dude. He's like a dark elf, kind of. They don't really describe him very much in the book. And one of the people who gets to see him is Gollum, interestingly enough. So, do you know this?
Yes.
So, and when Gollum is being tortured in Barad-dûr,
he goes up and talks to him, right?
He sees the black hand and it's missing a finger. So not all of his fingers got cut off. It was just the ring finger.
Yeah.
Which is pretty cool. Or maybe it was on his pointer or whatever in the book. It doesn't really specify. But Sauron is sort of, he does have a body in the book.
Yeah.
He's not formless, as they say, as Saruman says in this. And I think that direction that Jackson took here is a good direction for the movies, because in the books, it really doesn't make a difference because he's not there anyway.
Yeah.
He's just kind of sitting in his tower all day. So to make him more of this force of nature, the lidless eye wreathed in flame.
But it also too, like for a movie, it's like, oh my gosh, this is what our heroes are working against, that he's like slowly building up his power and everything like that. It
seems bigger than, it makes him seem powerful, but also like, oh, that he can't get to you physically yet. Like it really helps you understand, like if he got that thing that he's after, that thing that's already terrifying, is going to be unstoppable. A second age of darkness, as Gandalf says. But yeah, the opening is great. Seeing Sauron, and it, like you said, it sets everything up perfectly, but it also it reminds, or it doesn't remind you. It tells the audience, this is the guy you're going to have to contend with if he gets it back. So it's just sowing all these seeds in your mind, if you know it or not. You know, because it's referenced later by Elrond as well. That scene, it kind of goes back to it to remind you of that.
I love when Isildur picks up the ring and he's holding it and it's huge and it shrinks down to his size.
Yeah.
I'm just like, it's desire. It's that forbidden fruit. Like, it's like, I know I shouldn't keep this, but I'm going to keep it. Yeah. It's like, you know, the spirit of Sauron endures.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's great. I mean, and I love that Sauron is sort of, I know Tolkien famously said in the foreword of the second edition of Lord of the Rings that he was not a fan of allegory, but there's no denying that this trilogy is filled with allegory, and it's very much intertwined with Tolkien's faith. He was devoutly Catholic, very good friends with C.S. Lewis, famously. They initially were not friends because Lewis was not a Catholic. So there's a lot of fun back and forth between C.S. Lewis, author of the Chronicles of Narnia, if you didn't know. But he was also a veteran. And saw some pretty rough stuff.
In World War I, right?
Yes.
Yes.
And so it's interesting to see Tolkien, like what he's trying to say with Sauron. Like Sauron is your temptation. He's sin. He's the devil.
He's all the evil in the world.
Yeah. But also Morgoth is kind of like that too, if you get real deep into the Silmarillion. So Sauron is like, Morgoth is almost that fallen angel, Lucifer, because I mean, he literally has the same story.
Yeah.
Like he is the fallen angel. But Sauron is like a personification of your own temptation, your own evil and what you are capable of. And if you give in, and if everybody gives in, then it covers the world in the second darkness. I think it's just beautiful to see each character struggle with this throughout this movie. Yeah. Because Sauron is a character, but he's also the ring.
Yeah. And I think that's my favorite aspect of him in this movie. Like, I love it when like
the ring starts talking
and randomly hear it talking. And it's like, yes, he's not physically in this movie. He's all over this movie. Like something I noticed during the Council of Elrond, when they're all arguing and you see the fire in the ring and for like, I'd never thought about this like that, but that's totally Sauron showing that fire, that it's like, look, you all destroy each other over this thing.
Yeah.
And I'd always thought it was just like, oh, it's just the fires of Mordor. It's like, oh no, this is their internal fire that they will wreck each other. But Frodo stops that fire by being like, no, I'll take it. I will make sure that this just doesn't end poorly.
It's great.
Yeah.
My favorite ring moment, I have two. I love when the ring tempts Gandalf and when the ring tempts Aragorn. So when he tempts Gandalf is in the beginning of the movie, it's sitting on the table and he's talking and it just goes, Sigurd, which is the elven word for wizard or black speech for wizard. I'm not sure. And Gandalf just looks at it.
Yeah. They both stop and stare
for a moment.
Yeah.
And just keeps going. Just calling him, you know, because again, getting deeper into the lore here, but like they're both of the same species, Sauron and Gandalf.
Yeah, they're Maiar, right?
Yes. Sauron is a little bit more powerful than Gandalf, but he's of that sort of same line, right?
Kind of like archangels.
Level. Yeah. And when he tempts Aragorn, he calls him LSR.
Which is his kingly name.
Because he wants Aragorn to pursue his lordship.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that when we get into Return of the King is really fascinating. It's why Sauron loses.
Yeah.
Is because he's banking completely on Aragorn having the ring.
Taking the ring. Yeah.
Yeah. Which is really cool because I think this is actually the moment. That is actually the moment that Sauron believes that Aragorn takes the ring.
Mm-hmm.
Because he believes that later.
Yeah.
He's under the impression that Aragorn has the ring.
Yeah. That's why he's not suspecting 2 hobbits to have the ring.
Yeah. Well, he knows the 2 hobbits have them, but there's a point with the Palantir.
Yeah.
But Aragorn is with Merry and Pippin.
Yeah.
And he thinks that one of those 2 halflings have the ring, and that's why they never suspect Frodo.
Yeah.
Because who would try to destroy the ring?
Yeah.
I love that aspect. We've talked about this when we talk about Darth Sidious.
Mm-hmm.
But
evil can't see that. Yeah.
Evil cannot understand the capacity to not want power.
Yeah. Or the capacity to just, feed into those evil desires.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because Sauron would take the ring. He would conquer the world. And if he
will rebuild the world, because that's ultimately what he's a builder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, evil cannot create, it can only twist.
Well, okay.
Another line from Tolkien.
Okay. Yeah. But that's like his thingy or whatever, that because whatever, we're not going to get into it. Yes. That that's why he wanted to, sure, he wanted to reshape Middle Earth. How about that? Then,
yeah, he had his own desires. But again, he wanted to, just like Morgoth before him, he wanted to twist. He wanted to twist and to contort to his own vision of what he wanted all this to be.
Yeah.
Second age of darkness.
Mm-hmm.
But the ring is cool as a character. I like it's a really unique idea that not only is this a MacGuffin, it's a character, and it's also, it's a part of you.
Mm-hmm.
Every person.
Yeah.
I think
we all have a ring.
Yeah.
For lack of a better term.
Yeah. It's a great way to put it.
Mm-hmm.
So
my honorable mention is none other than Frodo's Uncle Bilbo.
Bilbo Baggins.
Bilbo Baggins. And the scene that I wanted to talk about was when Bilbo gives up the ring. And we'll skip ahead that like Bilbo is acting like he's going to go out the door, and then Gandalf is, Bilbo, the ring is still in your pocket. And I guess you're right. He picks it up. And this is the part that I really like about it. And I love that we just got done talking about Sauron and the ring, because am I right? Bilbo's the only one that gives it up willingly, isn't it?
I was about to say that.
Yeah. He's the only, because like Frodo still kind of takes it back from Sam. Basically,
and Boromir too.
Boromir. You mean Faramir?
No, Boromir in this movie, he gives it up, but he's kind of being coaxed into it.
He is.
I don't know that I'd count that.
Yeah, no, I don't. I wouldn't count that either.
And Frodo, sort of. I mean, he lays it onto the pedestal.
Yes, he does.
But that's not the same of relinquishing it.
No, like he's like,
Bilbo is really the only character who, in the history of the ring, fully relinquishes
Truly
it.
just gives it up. Yeah, and I love this. Like. The scene, I think it's just so much stuff. I was telling you about this before we started, but like the music swelling up as he's holding it, and he's like, okay, I'm going to get rid of it. And you hear the music, bum, 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 bum. As he's going like this, I don't even know how they did this. That it's like stuck to his hand and it like won't go away. And then you're like, oh my gosh, like it feels very like otherworldly.
Yeah.
That like, it's not just Bilbo's will. Like Sauron is doing his best to try to stay, because he knows that like, the ring has a mind of its own. It doesn't want to be destroyed. And so anyway, when it hits the ground, that weight that sounds, where it's just like that thud when you have your bass going at home, when it hits. And we also behind the scene magic that they had a magnet under there to make sure that it sat there.
It didn't bounce. Yeah.
So awesome. And then he walks outside. I thought of an ending to my book, and he lived happily ever after to the very end of his days. Then Gandalf walks up and gives him a hug. I'm sure he will. And I'm just like, how the music swells up, that huge thud, and then how that weight is lifted.
Yeah.
I just love that scene. And like, it's just kind of like a precursor to, this is what you're getting into. This isn't just some little trinket. Like this is going to be a big deal, and this is going to be a very, very hard thing for everybody to accomplish.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I like how it just ends with Bilbo walking off singing his song, going down the road, just the only way Bilbo knows how to. Then Gandalf looking back and the weight comes back.
Yeah.
As he walks back into the house.
Because now it's his problem.
Yeah, well,
And I like that he doesn't even, he tries to touch it, but he's like,
can't even
nope,
touch it.
I can't do this.
Yeah. So anyway, but yes, that's my.
It's great to see how each character deals with the ring.
Mhm.
Like, because do you think, okay, here's a wild idea.
Yeah.
Does the ring willingly leave Bilbo? Because something happened that the ring did not intend.
Exactly.
It was picked up by the most unlikely creature imaginable, a hobbit.
Yeah.
Like Bilbo unnaturally resisted the ring.
Yes.
Like he did not contend with the will of Sauron at all, to the point where nobody, the fires of Mount Doom were not, or not the fires of Mount Doom, fires of Mordor, like were not lit, so to speak.
Yeah.
Until Bilbo relinquishes it.
Mm-hmm.
So was the ring trying to get away from Bilbo?
100%. I don't know.
Interesting idea.
It waited. It waited for Gollum to find it in the
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think because the ring it's trying to get back to his master.
Yeah, always.
It couldn't get Bilbo to do anything.
No, and I was going to say Bilbo has a hobbit's life, and he loves a hobbit's life.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, he's in the presence of wizards now, so maybe it does want to leave.
That's what I was, or maybe because you said it like sticks to his hand. I wonder if it wants to go to Rivendell.
Yeah,
maybe that's where Bilbo is headed. Because in the book, this is another fascinating thing. I know I said I wouldn't say this, but it's kind of weird when he starts walking away. A bunch of dwarves come out and join him.
Really?
They like pop out of the bushes and stuff. Yeah,
really?
I think 3 dwarves. Yeah, because they were waiting for him.
Interesting.
Yeah,
kind of like the Hobbit.
Yeah,
interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
I love, by the way, how well, I don't know why I pointed to this, how well this movie weaves in the Hobbit.
Yeah, just stuff from it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I love that whole Gandalf sitting by the fire and he just has riddles to the dark to himself. Yeah. And I'm just like, that's cool. Just like, yeah.
It's great. This is a great scene. I love that scene too. That whole sequence
is great.
Of discovering the ring, like what it is. And Gandalf going on his quest to figure it out.
His 17-year quest.
His 17-year quest that they leave very ambiguous in the movie.
It's okay. He shortened it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it works better for a movie.
And yeah, you're right. It's like that whole weight of, oh my gosh, we have to deal with this now. Like, this is not something we can get away with. And, and one of my favorite lines of Gandalf of all time is when he's like, please, Gandalf, take it. Don't tempt me, Frodo. Understand, I would take this ring from a desire to do good, but through me, it would wield a power too terrible to imagine. And it's like, man, Gandalf he's one of my favorite characters in all fiction.
He's awesome.
He's great.
Yeah.
Let's get into the actual fellowship.
Yeah, now we got to get into the fellowship.
Going to start with a couple members of the fellowship that really don't have a ton to do here, but boy, do they shine in the next movie.
Yes.
Merry and Pippin. And I have selected my friend Pippin.
Yeah.
What's his real name?
Pippin?
Yeah.
He is, is that Dominic Monaghan?
No, I meant Peregrine Took.
Oh, my bad.
Pippin. The scene I've selected for our good friend, the Took, is the fool of a Took. That scene.
In the mines?
In the mines of Moria.
Yeah, and they called it a mine.
Yes, where Pippin knocks down the skeleton into the well by the tomb of Balin, which if you remember from the Hobbit movies, Balin is the guy with the really long white beard.
Yeah.
Sad to see
it is.
He's gone, no longer with us. I selected the scene because it's interesting, like Merry and Pippin, throughout the whole movie, they were just foolish. They're slapstick.
Yeah.
And I think here is where they really take a turn. Pippin in particular takes a turn like, oh, this is real.
Yeah.
Like the mistakes I'm making are affecting everybody.
There's consequences.
Because before this, I mean, a few things, right? They won't move out of the road when the ring wraiths are chasing Frodo. Yeah. Frodo has to get out of the road.
Yeah.
You know, they start the fire at Weathertop.
Yep.
Throwing stones in the lake outside of Moria that gets that like monster.
Yeah. The Watcher. Them. Yeah.
And then dropping the bones down the well. And Gandalf has just an ice cold line after that. Fool of a Took. Why don't you throw yourself down there so we may be rid of your foolishness? And it's like, dang, Gandalf, like, chill, homie.
Kind of mean.
And I think it's in this moment that they start to move to their path of understanding and like encourage and accountability.
Yeah.
Because after this, you see like when the cave troll busts in and they start fighting and it stabs Frodo. Merry and Pippin both jump onto the cave troll and start stabbing the cave troll, and they really start getting into the fight.
Yeah.
Whereas before they kind of were cowering away. They didn't do a whole lot. You see the same thing at Amon Hen at the very end of the film.
Yeah.
When Boromir starts getting hit, shot with arrows.
Yeah. What are they doing? They're throwing rocks.
Yeah, exactly.
They're not just going to be, they're just going to sit and wait. And
I think that, and while this is just sort of a brief discussion of this scene, because really this sets up their arc for the next movie, because they're the real heroes of the Two Towers.
Yeah.
They are set because they get taken at the very end, both Merry and Pippin. They get taken by the Uruk-hai. And because the Uruk-hai were told by Sauron to leave the halflings untouched because they carry something of great value.
Yeah.
And I think it's very fascinating that the things in this movie really matter going forward for these two characters. And you see the beginning of their arc because they're just silly, foolish hobbits. And Sam and Frodo really aren't that way. Like, I think Merry and Pippin are more avatars for the hobbits as a whole.
Yeah.
Frodo's a Baggins. He's already a little different. You know, Bilbo's a little different, has an eye for adventure. Sam's a whole different story.
Yeah.
But Merry and Pippin, I think, they're your typical hobbits. They care about eating food and drinking beer and
dorking around.
Around. I mean, there's also that scene, I don't remember if it was Merry or Pippin, but at the Prancing Pony, where Sauron is whispering via the ring.
Yes.
Baggins.
Yeah. That's Pippin.
And somebody tells Pippin, Baggins? Oh, I know a Baggins, Frodo Baggins.
Yeah.
Oh, he's my best friend. He's my cousin twice removed, whatever he says.
On my mother's side, yeah.
And that's what Frodo gets all mad at him, you know. I'm sorry, I can't help myself. In the book, that scene, Frodo actually is the one who blows his cover. He's like dancing up on a table and making a fool of himself. And then that's when Strider comes over. He's like, hey, what are you doing? Because he falls off the table. And that's when when
the ring falls on him. Yeah.
If I'm remembering that right. It has been a little while since I read the book.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's kind of just a real quick, I've always loved that scene in the Mines of Moria. I love how Jackson does that, how he combines several aspects. Yeah. Because Mines of Moria is a very long section. How he takes the important bits of a lot and throws it all into the Tomb of Balin. And then it sets off the chain of events that ultimately lead to Gandalf's death.
Yeah.
But really, Gandalf's death is probably, he was doomed the moment they entered the mines.
Yes, he knew his destiny.
Yeah, it really wasn't Pippin's fault.
Yeah.
But I think that
I would still be frustrated if I was Gandalf.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, he clearly was frustrated.
Yes.
But I think that this moment is something that sticks in Pippin's mind going forward, and it really makes a difference going into the next movie and into Return of the King, where they truly are heroes and they earn that moment.
And they're separated because they're no longer Merry and Pippin. Like they are each doing their own heroic acts.
Yeah, by Return of the King, yes. I think they earn that moment in Return of the King where all four hobbits begin to kneel before Aragorn, and he says, no.
You bow to no one.
You bow to no one. And I think that starts here for them. So that's my moment for Pippin.
Okay.
How about you for Meriadoc Brandybuck?
Meriadoc Brandybuck. It's Billy Boyd.
Billy Boyd, he's great.
That was
Pippin.
Yeah, the Dominic Monaghan is Mary. Is who I have. I picked the one where they're at Amon Hen and they're hiding. And this is before the Boromir sacrifice, but they're hiding and they see Frodo and it's like, Frodo, come here. And then Mary's the first to say it. He's leaving. Run, Frodo. Go. Because they know they can't help in this situation. They're not fighters. But what can they do? They can distract and buy their friend time because Frodo is the important one. And I think that shows maturity. When earlier, like, they were, what was their opening? They were stealing from Farmer Maggot's crop.
Or they're stealing fireworks. Is the first we see of them.
I was going to say too. There's that too. Stealing fireworks from Gandalf. I mean, now they're like owning up to stuff. I think that yes, Merry and Pippin don't have a whole lot to do in this movie, but this is really sowing the seeds for how we're going to end up and the bravery of hobbits.
Yeah,
that they were willing to do that because again, Frodo's the real mission.
Yeah.
Yes.
Soon what's the line? Soon the bravery of hobbits will shape the fate of many. Something like that.
And then Galadriel's quote, even the smallest person can make a difference. So yeah, But anyway, yes, that I know it's short, but I really do like that it's working. I know it's working. Run! That that they can get the Uruk-hai away from where Frodo's at, so he can get out of Dodge.
Yeah,
good stuff.
Well, speaking of short, how about the dwarf?
Ooh,
Gimli, son of Gloin.
Yeah,
or Gloin, depending on who is saying the name.
Yeah.
So Gimli, our third member of the Fellowship, the one of the dwarves who go to the Council of Elrond. But anyway, I picked a scene from the extended editions, and this is one of my favorites from Gimli.
Yeah.
After the Fellowship goes through the bridge of Khazad-dùm, they witness the death of their friend Gandalf, and they get just a moment to grieve. And Aragorn tells them, get them up. And Boromir, like, give them a moment for pity's sake.
Yeah.
And no, we have to leave. The orcs will be here by nightfall.
Yeah.
And they have to go into the forest of Lothlorien, where, as Gimli puts it, they say a great sorceress lives in these woods, an elf witch of terrible power. All who look upon her fall under her spell. He has, obviously, there's a lot of disdain between hobbits, between dwarves and elves. And you get to see that a little bit at the Council of Elrond. I'll soon be dead before I see the ring in the hands of an elf. And they get up and they start bickering and everything. And what I love when they enter Lorien is he's like, I've got the, what does he say? The eyes of...
He says he's got the eyes of a fox.
The eyes of an eagle and the ears of a fox.
Yeah.
And then they start drawing their bow. And then Halfdir says, we could hear the dwarf breathing so loud we could have shot him in the dark. It's great. But anyway, so that's what sets up their entrance to Lorien. And we don't get as much in the regular version of the movie, but he's very taken with Lorien, especially the Lady of the Wood.
Yeah.
And their hospitality, because initially they don't want to let him in.
Yeah.
But Galadriel tells them to, stand down and to let Gimli be a part of the company. It's very similar in the book. I think it's actually Legolas is one of them that helps convince. But Galadriel ultimately is who tells them, like, hey, it's fine. A dwarf can come into our land.
Yeah.
And at the very end, the scene that I'm really focusing on, this is all sort of build up, is Galadriel gives each member of the Fellowship a gift. Gives Frodo the light of Arendelle?
Something like that.
Something like that. There's so many names.
Yes.
Gives Sam like a bunch of rope.
Yeah, elven rope.
Yeah. And so on and so forth. Everybody gets something. When she gets to Gimli, though, she does not prepare a gift. And she asks Gimli, what do you seek from the Lady of the Wood? And he initially says nothing. That to see her beauty was, a gift enough. And then finally, he mentions, he doesn't even ask for it. The gift that he wants is a strand of her golden hair. And I love the way that they do this in the movie, in the extended edition, because it cuts away. Because he's like, oh, I don't know that I could say.
Yeah.
And then it cuts to them on the boat. And Legolas is asking Gimli.
Paddling.
Yeah, just paddling. And it's like, so what did she give you? And he's very solemn about it. And he says he asked for a strand of her golden hair. And then he pauses. She gave me 3. And a little Tolkien lore nugget here. Legolas smiles. And I think he smiles because this is the moment that Legolas knows they can be friends. And this is a reference to something in the Silmarillion as well, where an uncle of Galadriel by the name of Fëanor seeks Galadriel, which is kind of weird, and continually seeks a strand of her hair, asked her 3 times, and Galadriel denies him 3 times.
Yeah.
And then he goes on to do some pretty bad stuff in retaliation. I think he was one of the first kinslayers of the elves. And this was Galadriel sort of righting a wrong. Not righting a wrong. She could sense the evil in Fëanor's heart. Yeah. But she sensed that Gimli was pure of heart. And so she gives him 3 as a reminder of that moment with Fëanor.
Yeah.
And I just love the moment in particular with Gimli, because he really doesn't get a ton to do here either in this movie. He's another character that really shines in the next 2.
Yeah.
You get great moments where it's like, and my axe. And, then they go into the mines of Moria and he's like, oh, soon you'll be feasting in my cousin's house. Yeah. Yeah. He's talking about all the
malt beer.
Yeah.
And they called it a mine. Yeah.
And he, mourns Balin. That's really sad. But just that moment where he goes solemn. She gave me 3. And he wants to turn those into crystals. He's going to encase the the hairs into crystals that he will then pass down as a family heirloom, and he will always be reminded of the fairness of the Lady of Lorien. And he's actually sad because he knows he'll never see anything as beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
And this is something that comes up time and time again with this character. Is the moment changed him in Lorien, and it's cool because by Return of the King, they are Gimli and Legolas are best friends.
Yeah,
and I think it really starts here, where they realize that they do have kinship, and I think it's cool. It's a good scene.
Yeah. Speaking of Legolas, I picked Legolas for my next character.
Legolas.
Yes, and I picked, unfortunately, I don't really have a good quote from him for this scene, but they have a cave troll. I picked the Mines of Moria and Balin's tomb. And this one because I'll admit Legolas I'll be real, he doesn't have a ton to do in any of the three of these movies.
Yeah,
he's just kind of that
there to look pretty.
Well, yeah, he's showing off them cheekbones, and especially up until now, like all he's done is like he's walked on the snow, he shot the Watcher a few times, but he was the one to see the Crabine from Dunland or whatever. He was the first to. So like it's just helpful to have an elf on your team. That's all that we know so far. And then so they barricade the door. They have a cave troll. All right, everyone backs up. All right, there's one dwarf in Moria that still draws breath. And I love as they are chopping that door down, there is a crack, and Legolas has already shot somebody. This like shows really why you want him on your team. Is that like, unfortunately, the movie kind of waters him down in a sense as a character. That like he's not bringing a lot of character moments, but like it's because of him he can turn the tide in a battle, and you need that on your team. And so this is kind of just for showing off what he can do, and so that's why I kind of picked this moment, and especially that final blow to the cave troll, which I never knew what exactly he did until I knew he shot him in the face. I didn't realize he shot him through the roof of his mouth. Yeah, is that I did not realize that up until like it was not this viewing for this, but like it was the viewing before where I realized, I always thought that he just shot him like in the head and it was just kind of hanging out, and I'm like, oh no, he definitely shot him through the mouth, because earlier in the movie he shoots and he just like they kind of bounce off of it. Anyway, but he's tearing it up. He's like, did you ever play the Two Towers game on PS2? Yes. I really like how he moved in that game, where it was almost like a dance, basically, where Aragorn's kind of he's kind of chaotic, for lack of a better term, like in his movements and stuff like that. But like Legolas is like, it's almost like a dance as he's moving through guys. So
I like him on the bridge of Khazad-dùm right after that too. Like he's the one who he starts hitting the guys up there because they start getting hit.
Yes, and they're falling down, and he's grabbing everybody and taking them over and stuff. I do like that as Boromir almost falls, he's the first one to grab him. That it's just like he's just physically superior to pretty much everybody else on the Fellowship. So
there's a note that I read while prepping that I really liked from Orlando Bloom, where during the scene where they're mourning both Gandalf and Boromir, his direction, I don't know if Peter Jackson gave it to him or if it was his own, is that death is such a peculiar thing. Like that's what Legolas is thinking. Yeah. Because
he does have a weird look on his face. Yeah.
And that's why, because he doesn't know how to take that because he's an elf. I think that's interesting because he's an immortal character.
Yes, I was going to say, and then, but like they have a weird kind of death because like when the Grey Havens finally go, that's when they go. Like they don't, it's almost as if he doesn't have a soul, but he is immortal. Yeah. It's really, really interesting to think about.
Yeah. The elves are interesting characters in general. It's like,
yes, because I'm sure that that's going through his head, if that makes sense, where like death is peculiar, that it's like, that like I am immortal, but eventually death will come for me, but in a different way. I
like Legolas. He's grown on me over the years. Yeah. He was always my least favorite member of the Fellowship.
Really, he was always mine growing up. Like I was all about.
He's your favorite?
Yeah, he like I don't know if that's still true today, but growing up, definitely that he was my favorite, just because I'm really into like I always like the archer character. Like I think that's so cool.
Well, I pay attention more to the smaller details now, and I notice like all the little hits he's landing, and he's like, oh, now he's racking 2 arrows. And
Double shot.
Yeah.
I'm going to bring that someday. I'm going to bring that for our live. I'm going to bring some cards from this game that I like.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the name of a card. Yes, and then
Gotcha.
yes, I love in Amon Hen when Aragorn's fighting that one and he's shooting like 6. He's just sitting there. And then finally he kills the one that Aragorn's been struggling with for like 40 seconds. That I'm just like, I love it. I mean, it's just like, that's what he's there to do. He can turn the tide in a fight. That it's just, sometimes you need that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there are 9 members of the Fellowship. We've just talked about 4.
Yeah.
Meaning that one of us is going to have one extra.
Yeah.
And I think you're the one with the extra.
Gotcha.
Why don't you hit me with him first?
I have a quote, so I'm sure you're going to know from the quote. None of us should wander alone. You least of us. So much depends on you, Frodo. So, Boromir, like the whole movie has been building to this moment where he tries to finally take the ring from Frodo, and I this is another moment where like I'd never heard it up until when it was in theaters. When like a couple months ago it was in theaters. You can hear the ring talking during this scene.
Mm-hmm.
That as he's grabbing, you can hear that it's like, you know, I'm sure it's saying, take me, you know what I mean? Like it's rooting for Boromir. That it's just very frightening. And it just shows like, I really like how kind of that weight is shown again, but in a different way, if that makes sense. With like, as soon as Frodo disappears and then Boromir gets kicked, and then he starts cursing and I think that, you know, that it's bad when he goes like, I could see into your mind, you know, you're going to give the ring to Sauron. And then he's like, you know, curse to you and all the halflings. And then he falls and then he realizes like what he's saying. And I feel like that, like, that's such a human thing where like you can just get caught up in stuff. And then you just realize like, this isn't me. And then what's he say? As Frodo's running away, you hear it when he's in like the Twilight Realm or whatever you want to call it. I'm sorry, Frodo. I'm sorry. Like I feel like that's just such another allegory for people, and I think that that's like so strong, and it's been building throughout the whole movie. I mean that he's fought with Aragorn the night before. That's in the extended. That you know about you know, I wouldn't take the ring within 100 leagues of the White City. You know that at the Council of Elrond, you know, give it to the steward of Gondor. You know, we'll be able to do this. We could win this war, you know, by the blood of my people. Even on the mountaintop, you know, he's staring at it. Like, I mean, the whole thing is building up to this, that like, you know, he's going to try to take the ring. And, Galadriel even says it too. Like he can't even look at her. Like he's all sweaty and everything. Like she tells Frodo that someone's going to try and take it. And yeah, and I think too that like this hits so hard, and then it makes his sacrifice that much better. That like, yes, that like when he comes running in, and I think that his sacrifice was too easy to pick, if that makes sense. It's like that's the like that. All I have to say is like he might be the coolest tank in all of fiction. That like, you know, that he's just sitting there just tanking Uruk-hai and then starts tanking arrows, and it's cool because you know in the book you don't see that scene. They just find him full of holes. So yeah, that like he's just full of arrows. So I think it's cool that we got to see that.
It's also at the beginning of Two Towers in the book. It's not at the end of Fellowship.
Yes.
That's one interesting thing. Just the one difference from the books to the movies, a big difference. A lot of the books is told secondhand, if that makes sense. Yeah. So everything with Sauron in the books.
That's all told from Gandalf's perspective.
It's all told from Gandalf's perspective during the Council of Elrond. Yeah. Everything you see with Sauron's not in Fellowship. Yeah. Like you don't see a scene with him in real time, if that makes sense. Same with Boromir. You hear about that battle later on, but they just find him that way. Every time there's like a moment of action, it's told as a story within the story. Yeah. Which I think is really unique. Yeah. I just wanted to.
Well, it kind of reminds you a little bit of Narnia. You remember like that. So in the movie, like there's that crazy battle at the end of Narnia, and like it's like this long in the book. It's like one little paragraph that's like it's full of all this terrible stuff that's like super scary, and I can't tell you this stuff. But like all I can tell you is that like Aslan was the one that killed the witch, and Edmund broke the witch's wand. And that's basically it.
I mean, it's the same. Like Helm's Deep is like what, like 6 pages or something, or 3 pages. It's not that long. Yeah. So I just think that I just think this. I've never seen a book do that or a storyteller do that. Tell something in third person so much. That's not even the right word. It's not, because books are told in third person all the time. Secondhand, told secondhand, like all these big moments.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, to go back to Boromir, I think that I still struggle with what Boromir means as a character. I feel like I'm missing something with him, just personally. This is like my own personal experience with the movies and the books. Because like each member of the Fellowship means something, right? Like you have the elf's perspective, you have the dwarf's perspective, you have Frodo the ring bearer, you don't
see Boromir as being the twisted version of Aragorn?
Yes, I was about to say that.
Okay,
it's like you have the two halves of men with Aragorn and Boromir.
Mm-hmm.
And what I love that Tolkien does and what the movie does as well is that Boromir is not too far gone, just like none of us are too far gone. He is constantly being driven by selfish desires, but he also has moments of nobility throughout the movie where he'll save someone, he'll pull someone out of the way.
I do think it's interesting. Did you know that like they pretty much cut him all out of the fight in Balin's tomb? He's in the fight in the extended.
Okay.
It's because he gets pulled by the cave troll. He's still holding on to the chain by accident and he gets taken out.
Interesting.
And so I think it's really interesting that that's the first time you see him fight is against the Uruk-hai, that they're saving that all for his sacrifice. So I think that's really cool.
That is interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like him more as time goes on. That's what's fun about this movie is like every time I watch it, I feel like I come away with something new.
Yeah.
And I feel like I just have not had the experience yet where I've come away understanding Boromir, if that makes sense. Like I know that it's there.
Yeah.
But for me personally, it's like, I know this is going to sound so cheesy, but it's like, I'm not ready to understand it yet. That's not the lesson the movie wants to give me right now.
Yeah. I love that scene too, where you hear the womp womp and then the Horn of Gondor, and then it like, it cuts that overhead shot of him flip it, a backdrop in that one. Like I'm just like, dude, that's cool filmmaking. So
I mean, his death is sad.
It is super sad. Do you ever any manly tears? You ever get any manly tears while watching this?
That one gets me.
Yeah,
that one got me a little bit on this watch.
Gotcha.
There's a couple moments in this movie.
There's 4 times during this movie manly tears happen. Yeah, for me. Do you want me to tell them really quick?
Yeah, sure.
When Frodo running to Gandalf, I mentioned that earlier because it's like that weird like we're back, baby. This is
like you're home.
Yep, we're home. Then when Aragorn and Arwen are talking on the bridge.
Okay, interesting pick.
It's just because it really gets me where she's all like, I would spend one lifetime with you and like an eternity without you. And I'm just like, that's commitment. It's really that's awesome. I try to mirror that in my life that I'm just like, that's a good lesson that like, you only got one life. You gotta live it once. So yeah, live the best that you can. Love the people. Or love people the best that you can. Then Boromir sacrificing himself always gets me. And then also Gandalf will get me sometimes when he falls. Yeah.
Yeah. The Gandalf one's rough for me. There's a couple moments with Gandalf. I think that he's just such a...
Oh, wait, no. I'm sorry. It's the end. We haven't talked about it yet. Yes, when Frodo's sitting there holding the ring. We'll talk about that. It's not... Gandalf sometimes gets me. Frodo's gets me almost every time at the end of this movie. Yeah, so there we go.
Okay,
anyway.
So the next member of the Fellowship. We'll save our 2 Hobbit friends for the end because the movie ends with them.
Yeah.
I think it's time to talk about my favorite member of the Fellowship.
Yeah.
Gandalf the Grey. Gandalf! I had a hard time picking a scene from him. Yeah. I love every scene with this character. And Gandalf the Grey is my favorite version of the character.
Amen. He gets so boring when he's the white.
He is a lot more boring as the white.
Yes. But I'm really into the whole idea that like Gandalf can't get that involved in stuff. He can just kind of push things. So like he got the power buff to be the white. So I think that he has to be less involved even more that like he can, will people to do things.
I mean, it makes all the sense from a story perspective. Yes. And I love the sort of Christ-like nature of it, him coming back. I mean, that's all great.
Yeah.
And I thought about his introduction because I love that scene.
Yeah.
I thought about the moment where he's talking about the ring with Frodo. There's a lot of great pieces of wisdom and the performance of Ian McKellen. Fantastic. I thought about the most famous scene from this movie. You cannot pass. I am the servant of the secret fire, wielder of the flame of Konnor.
Dark fire will not avail you, flame
Flame
of
of
Odin.
Odin. Yep. You shall not pass.
In which that backs up my whole thing. That it's like he didn't do it. He broke the bridge. The Balrog defeated itself.
Yeah,
All he did was
he pushed it back.
he did, but like he told it not to go forward, and it did.
Yeah.
And then it broke then it kind of throws it out the window when you see him like
And 2 towers.
yeah, when you see his like his
It's awesome.
It is. No, I'm just saying it breaks my whole theory that it's like he can only get involved so much
Well,
or
he has
whatever.
to get involved on that kind of stuff because what does he say leading up to the bridge of Khazad-dùm?
Yeah,
He's like,
swords are no more use here.
This enemy is beyond any of you.
Yeah, I
We
mean,
must go.
Yeah.
And then they leave,
Mhm.
because only they are on the same level. The Balrog is also a Maiar.
yeah.
They're
Oh,
on
I
the
know
same-
it's a fallen. Yeah, it's just a fallen Maiar. Yeah.
But I did ultimately land on a quiet moment because really, why is this movie so special? It's because of that.
Stuff. It's about
Because
the
of-
relationships.
Yes, really no movie does these better.
Mhm.
And ultimately, it's when we get to the Mines of Moria and speak friend and enter.
Mm-hmm.
They get through the Watcher. Is that what you called it? Is that what it's
That's
called?
what. Yeah, the Watcher in the Deep. Yeah.
So it breaks down the walls so they can't leave. They have no choice but to go through.
Mhm.
But then Gandalf stops.
Mhm.
I have no memory of this place. And then we get to what is undoubtedly the best scene Gandalf has in the entire trilogy.
Amen.
When Gandalf tells Frodo about Gollum. And I'm just going to read you the exchange and then we can talk about it because I feel like just me describing it's not going to do it justice.
Yeah.
So Gandalf is trying to figure out which way to go.
Yeah,
Like
because there's like 3 paths.
or,
Yeah.
2 or 3 paths.
Yeah.
And Frodo sees something crawling in the distance.
Mhm.
Gandalf, there's something down there. That is Gollum. He's been following us for 3 days. And he starts to tell him about Gollum. And then Frodo says something kind of interesting.
Pity Bilbo didn't kill him when he had the chance.
It's a pity Bilbo didn't kill him when he had the chance. And he has some bite to his voice.
Mm-hmm.
Gandalf just stops. Pity. It was a pity that stayed Bilbo's hand. Many that live deserve death, and some that die deserve life. Can you give it to them, Frodo? Do not be so eager to deal out death and judgment. Even the very wise cannot see all ends. My heart tells me that Gollum has some part to play yet, for good or ill. Before this is over, the pity of Bilbo may rule the fate of many. And then Frodo replies. He kind of sighs, takes in what Gandalf said, sighs and sits next to him. I wish the ring had never come to me. I wish that none of this had happened. So do all who live to see such times, but that is not for them to decide. All we have to decide is what to do with the time that is given to us. There are other forces at work in this world, Frodo, besides the will of evil. Bilbo was meant to find the ring, in which case you were also meant to have it. And that is an encouraging thought. I mean, there is nothing better, just as far as wisdom that you can take into your own life, than so do all who live to see such times. All we have to decide is what to do with the time that is given to us. I mean, put that on a plaque and hang it above your bathroom mirror.
Yeah.
And read that
Put it above
every
your
day.
bed. Goodness.
We all have a certain amount
Yeah.
of time. We all hope it's longer than we really think.
Yeah.
But what are you going to do with that time?
Yeah.
What are you going to do with the time that is given to you?
Yeah.
And Frodo's saying at the beginning, like, oh, I wish Bilbo would have cut this guy down. And he says, no. And really, you can see that this is Tolkien talking from a place of war. He's a man who's seen evil up close and personal. He's seen death.
Yeah.
He's not someone who can deal out death and judgment. And he's trying to explain to Frodo, like, but are you? And this is the moment that really separates Gandalf from Sauron and from Sauron. He may be on the same level.
Yeah.
But what makes Gandalf special is that he comes down to their level and can understand that even someone like Gollum deserves compassion.
Mhm.
And he's correct. The pity of Bilbo will rule the fate of many,
It's true.
because Gollum does have a part to play,
Yes, a very big part.
very big part to
Yeah.
play. And if not for Bilbo,
Yeah.
and gosh, that's a great lesson too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you don't have the right to cut someone down like
No.
that. You don't have the right to do evil upon someone.
Yeah.
It is not for you to be
You're
deal
not
out death
judge,
and
jury, and
judgment.
you're not judge, jury, and executioner.
And it just shows the timeless wisdom of this character and why
Yeah.
he is so special.
Mm-hmm.
And he's also so, he says all of this very heavy stuff because he doesn't tell Frodo what he wants to hear.
Yeah.
Tells him he's wrong right away.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that's what you need from a good mentor, is
Yeah.
for them to tell you sometimes, to kind of kick you in the butt and be like, what's wrong with you?
Yeah.
You know, that's not the way. And to point you in the right direction. And what literally happens after this? He points the fellowship in the right
Right.
direction. Gosh, how beautiful is that?
Follow your nose.
And we get that aspect of Gandalf that I also love, the grandfatherly nature. Right after he just tells him all of this very heavy stuff, he just goes, oh, it's that way.
Yeah.
Oh, how do you know? They're like, oh, the air doesn't smell quite so foul down here.
Mm-hmm.
When in doubt, Meriadoc, always follow your nose. And then they go down.
Yeah.
Like, he's just able to read situations and move through them and give people what they need in the moments that they need.
Yeah.
But I mean, I love Gandalf.
No, I mean, I was going to say that's the scene.
Yeah. I think that if you could pull out any scene from this movie that could really resonate with you, could resonate with anybody.
Yeah.
It's this scene.
Mm-hmm.
And Gandalf makes wizards cool, man.
He does.
Like,
Yeah.
every game I play where you can be a wizard, I'm a wizard.
Yeah.
And it's because of Gandalf, and I'll be real, because of Dumbledore.
Yeah.
But Gandalf is, I mean, let's be honest. Dumbledore is an interesting character for a whole different slew of reasons.
Mm-hmm.
Gandalf is just,
No, Gandalf's the wizard.
he's
He's the prototype.
Yeah, he's not the prototype. He's the template.
Yeah, well, that's, I mean, like, yeah,
Like,
that he's
he is- There's just something so special. Every time I see Gandalf in a movie as a figure,
Yeah.
in a poster or something, there's something that just, it's calming about him.
Mm-hmm.
Calming about his presence. I know that's so weird to say about a fictional character.
Yeah.
But there really is something. It makes me, this sounds so goofy. It makes me feel like when I go to my grandparents and I talk to my grandpa.
Yeah.
My papa is one of my favorite people on this planet.
Mm-hmm.
And he's my hero. And Gandalf is like that. Like, I just want to hear him talk.
Yeah.
What wisdom is he going to impart onto me?
Mm-hmm.
What is he going to do to help my friends? You know, what is he going to do to help those around him?
Mm-hmm.
And this scene is perfectly encapsulated. And it's, what's great is you don't get that in a moment where he's swinging his sword. He can do that.
Yeah.
But you don't get it when he's throwing his staff around. He can
Yeah.
do that. Now, his best moment comes when he's sitting on a rock, gnawing on his pipe,
Thinking.
giving out wisdom. And Gandalf proves that true power doesn't come from the staff he wields.
Yeah.
It comes from the wisdom,
Mm-hmm.
the words, and ultimately his compassion.
Yeah.
And he's my favorite member of the Fellowship. He's one of my favorite characters in all of fiction.
Mm-hmm.
And the gray reigns supreme.
He does. Very cool. All right. On to the next character. One who I like more and more every time I watch these movies. I used to just think he was okay because everyone liked him. But he's kind of the main character of these movies, kind of. And that
Bill the Pony.
Bill the Pony. Sorry, Bill. The mind's no place for a pony. Goodbye, Bill. So, I'm just going to read the quote. I would have followed you to the very end, to the very fires of Mordor. And you talked about it. You hear Sauron calling to him, and he just shuts Frodo's hand. He just holds it. He says that quote. I'm talking about Aragorn. And just, this is the Aragorn moment. I mean, like, this is it. I mean, like, yeah, friends, you bow to no one. Yeah, that's important. You know, you swear allegiance to me now. You know, that's important too, you know. But I mean, like, this is like, he faces this temptation that everyone's falling to, basically. And then what's he do? Shuts the hand. No, you go. Get out of here. And it's really interesting with like, what just happened with Boromir.
Mhm.
And I like too that like they kind of swerve you a little bit at the very beginning where Frodo falls and then he's all like, Frodo. It's like, where is the ring? Like he sounds scary. And then it's like, can you protect me from yourself? That like, yeah. And it's like, oh, I swore an oath to protect you. So, and I like that. I just like, this is good. This is Aragorn.
Like, I like how it's a mirror to Elrond saying, I was there, Gandalf.
Mhm.
I was there when the strength of men failed.
Yeah.
This is when the strength of man succeeded.
It's true. And then, Arwen's trying to pump him up the whole movie. Why do you fear, your destiny? I'm scared of the blood. No, that's like, yeah, Isildur's blood does run, like it does flow through you, but I mean, you're not him.
Mhm.
So she believes in him.
Yeah.
So it's cool that he starts believing in himself too.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, how cool is that too, that the Uruk-hai show up and then he's like, get out of here.
And then there's that shot where he walks up and it's just an army of Uruk-hai.
Yeah.
And he's like,
yeah.
Yes, this is it.
Yeah, exactly. And then I like too that like for some weird reason there's slow motion as Frodo's cape goes up. Like, yeah. And then he just starts going ham on some Uruk-hai. I do really like that he runs up on top of Amun-Hen and then like he's kind of like a video game. It reminds me of like, you gotta you get to fight him in. Funnels them and then he can fight them one at a time. Like it's just good stuff.
He's so good. I like him more and more as time goes on as well.
Yeah, I thought he was fine when we were all growing up because everyone loved him. He was everyone's favorite character. And I'm like, I can't like him. Everybody likes him. So that's why I gravitated to Legolas because yeah, other people did like Legolas, but it seemed like everybody was an Aragorn guy. It's probably kind of like the Qui-Gon Jinn thing that like
you're a nonconformist.
Yeah, I guess I just like I just don't like to always like the like. I like to really think about the thing like why do I like these people and stuff like that. And now I guess I get it now why people do like Aragorn. It's because like I guess it's because of this scene. This is why I like Aragorn. Yeah, I could care less. Like kind of like how Gandalf becomes the White. I could care less about what he does when he's king. Like I just don't care about his all of his policies for Middle Earth. But like I care about this. Like I care about that whole just him having temptation and then him just not even willing to give it the time of day. Yeah.
That is a very powerful shot when he closes.
Yes.
Frodo's
And
hand.
you hear the ring say LSR. So like Sauron knows his future. It's just, it's good stuff.
It's great. He's a great character.
Yes.
Great character.
Yeah.
We have 2 remaining members of the Fellowship.
Probably the most important members of the Fellowship.
Probably the 2 remaining members when it comes to the end of this movie as well.
Yes.
Because as Gimli says, the Fellowship has failed. And Aragorn replies, no, we will stay true to our kin. We will not let Merry and Pippin fall to the orcs.
Yeah.
And they run off to save Merry and Pippin.
Let us hunt some orc.
Yes. Yes.
So what a fun way to end a movie.
And mine, I chose.
Well, you want me to go first?
You can if you'd like.
I don't know.
You want me to end with you know who?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. I'm just going to do the quote again. I made a promise, Mr. Frodo. A promise. Don't you leave him, Samwise Gamgee. And I don't mean to. Like, this whole scene starts with the Gandalf scene that you were talking about. This is kind of clip showy a little bit. I'll give you that. Like a clip where it's like just kind of playing the hits of the movie again. Because like Frodo's sitting there with the ring and then all of a sudden it shows Gandalf again. He says the exact same thing. Like, so do all who live to see such times. And he's like talking and then that's when he's like, all right. And then he puts the ring back on his neck and then he's going out into the boat and then Sam chases him out there. And then Sam, Frodo's, tells him, you can't swim. And Sam, it doesn't matter. Sam's gonna be a friend. He's gonna be there. I mean, I think that everybody needs a Sam. That makes any kind of sense. Yeah. In real, like I truly do mean that. I know that sounds silly, but it's weird that this name comes up in fiction a lot. Cause like Dean has a Sam, Jon Snow has a Sam, Frodo has a Sam, and all these heroes, they need a best friend or a brother that can look out for them. And I mean, that moment of Sam willing to sacrifice himself to be with Frodo, that friendship that, I mean, that's echoed throughout we'll talk about it more, but it's echoed throughout the trilogy. Yes, it's very, very powerful.
Some would argue Sam is the hero of these movies.
I mean, yes. And which we'll talk about that more. But I think it's really like, I mean, this is that defining, kind of like how Merry and Pippin had their moment each that's going to define how they're going to be for the rest of these movies. Like this is Sam's moment. And I think it really does. It's echoed too through Frodo as well, like where they end up. Mm-hmm. It's interesting how they end up when they finally get to this is the beginning of their journey by themselves.
Yeah.
It's interesting how the journey ends.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah.
A
promise, great. Mr. Frodo. Yeah.
I love, the only thing I'll add to that is one of my favorite scenes from this movie is when they're talking very deeply about the ring and we have to go, and the bag end and they're like rustling everything up, we have to make it to you can't travel by road. Yeah. We'll make it to Rivendell. And then you hear some rustling out the window.
I love the music cue right there.
Gandalf just pulls him out. Confound it all, Samwise Gamgee. Yeah. Have you been eavesdropping? I ain't dropping no eaves, sir.
Yeah. Oh no, I ain't dropping no eaves, sir. Please don't turn me into anything unnatural.
And then at the very end, I have a better use for you. And then it cuts to that beautiful shot.
That silhouette of them. Silhouette.
Yeah. And all you see is Gandalf, Bill the Pony, and Frodo. And he says, come on, Sam.
Yeah.
And then for a moment they get you and then Sam catches up from behind.
Yeah.
I love that. That is one of the best uses of a smash cut in film history, right?
It's good.
It's so great.
It is good. Have you watched the animated one? Like how mean he is to Sam? I don't know how he like...
I'm sure you've seen that meme. He's like, why does he scare him right
I know.
That's
like, what I'm saying, where he like goes like that to him.
Just like,
yeah.
Well, because those were... they were rotoscoped, you know that, right?
Yeah.
So like those were performed and then the animators just rotoscoped over their performances.
Yeah.
So like the actor had to have done that. It's
weird.
Like, why'd you do that?
Yeah.
Why'd you just freak him out like that?
I don't know.
If you guys don't know what I'm talking about, is it from the 70s Lord of the Rings movie?
Yes.
Movie? Some of it's good, but it just ends in a weird spot.
It does.
Kind of ends with them saying like, and they all lived happily ever after. They destroyed the ring and huzzah.
Because isn't it in pretty much at Helm's Deep?
Something like that. It's in a weird place. It ends in a really weird place.
It's crazy. It's Frank Frazetta, right? Didn't he do that?
I have no idea.
Maybe he didn't. It's fine. Whatever. Anyway, I don't remember who did that. Yeah. Thought he had something to do with it. It's fine. Whatever.
Well, there is one remaining member of the fellowship. He who bears the ring. The ring bearer himself. And there's a lot of scenes I could pick of Frodo. I always thought when I used to watch these movies as a kid that Frodo, there's kind of this effect in some of these movies, like some of these, like high fantasy movies are bad about this sometimes, where the main character sometimes is the least interesting.
Yeah.
I like to describe this as the Harry Potter effect. I know I'm going to get some of the Harry Potter fans on me because I love Harry Potter, by the way. I'm a big fan. But Harry's kind of the least interesting character in those movies, in my opinion.
He's the chosen one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's
Frodo's kind of the chosen one.
Yeah. And but he's kind of whiny a lot of this movie, But I've grown more appreciation for him because he bears the burden.
Yep.
He takes on this great, like Bilbo found the ring, not knowing what the ring was. And he gives it up willingly.
Yeah.
But I don't think Bilbo ever really knew what the ring was. Yes, he
didn't even know how fancy his shirt was.
Yeah. He could sense it, and the ring took him. Yeah. And elongated his life and all that. Frodo knew in every detail what the ring was. He was told. Yeah. And when he gets to Rivendell, he wants to leave.
Yeah.
I'm ready to go home. We brought it this far.
Yeah.
And then he decides to take it up. And that's the scene, the Council of Elrond.
I will take it.
It's the best scene in the book, by the way, in my opinion. And I almost picked the first temptation of Frodo because we see him getting tempted a few times before this, hiding by the road. And you see him like his eyes kind of roll in the back of his head and he like
starts to put it on. Yeah.
The prancing pony. And then Weathertop where he gives in. Yeah. He does put it on. So he knows the turmoil he'll face because by this point he's been stabbed by the Morgul blade.
Yeah.
He knows what hunts him.
Yeah.
And still, he decides to pick up his cross and bear it.
Mm-hmm.
Because he sees, as everybody bickers and argues in the Council of Elrond, as Boromir, as you mentioned, wants to take it up and give it to the steward of Gondor by the blood of his people.
Yep.
And I'll be dead before I see the ring in the hands of an elf. And they yell and scream, and Legolas points out that Aragorn is the chosen king.
Yeah.
And they fight and bicker, and Frodo just stands up and sees in the reflection of the ring.
Yeah.
All of that, and then the fire.
Yeah.
And he knows
they'll kill each other.
He's the only one who can do it.
Mm-hmm.
And he just triumphantly yells, "I will take it." And I love the shot after that.
Gandalf.
It's of Gandalf. He just, because I think Gandalf knew.
Yeah.
He just hoped it would play out differently.
Mm-hmm.
And he just turns. No, I mean, because Gandalf knows this is the only choice as well, but he wants to spare the Hobbit.
Yeah.
Because Gandalf has a line toward the beginning of the movie where Frodo's like, "What news of the outside world?" And Gandalf says, "They know little of hobbits, and I hope it stays that way." He kind of whispers it under his breath. And this is Frodo's great strength. He has an indomitable will. But even he is not strong enough to resist the ring. And I like that about this character, that, Frodo may be like a chosen one trope, but he does give in a lot. Like on Weathertop, when the going gets tough against Boromir, he's got no other option. He puts it on.
Yeah.
Puts it on at Weathertop. There's a few moments in the next two movies.
Yeah.
At
Amon Hen,
Amon Hen.
Yeah.
Well, no, Weathertop as well.
He also puts it on, with the ring wraiths.
But when the going gets tough at Amon Hen with Boromir, he does put it on and he runs away.
Yeah.
So he does give in to the temptation, but ultimately he still bears his cross. And I think that you talked about being human earlier, and there's no denying the sort of religiosity of a lot of what Tolkien was saying with the ring. I mean, it being sin and having to bear that.
Yeah.
And cast it away, cast it into the fire. I mean, there's so much there to chew on in and of itself, right? But what's more human than that you will bear this burden, that you will carry your cross and still to falter and mess up. And what does Sam do? He picks up the cross with Frodo.
Yeah.
And I think that is the most human thing about these movies and about this story is Frodo. And that's why he is the mirror to, and the vehicle, rather, the avatar for the audience.
Mm-hmm.
And you live vicariously through him. It's like everybody can relate to that, where you may choose to do the good thing, but you're still going to mess up. You're still going to slip. You're going to fall. You're going to run into adversity. And so what do you need ultimately? You need to continually try to be better, but also you need fellowship. And
need your friends.
And that's what this movie is really about. And I love that it ends with that. Frodo tries to leave on his own.
Yeah, he's trying to be, the fellowship's going to fail. No, it's not going to fail. Sam won't let it fail.
Sam joins him, and Frodo allows him. And there's that moment where they look out to Mordor.
Mm-hmm.
"I'm glad you're with me, Sam." And they decide to carry that cross together to Mordor. And that's so beautiful.
Yeah, it's great.
Frodo is, he's grown on me a lot as I get older. And I'm excited to see how he's grown on me going into the next two movies, because I've watched Fellowship by far the most.
Yeah.
It's been a while since I've seen Two Towers.
Yeah. And the interesting thing now, they're all separated. We've got 3 running stories.
Yeah.
Now. So,
very exciting.
Okay. Interesting. As opposed to one running story.
Speaking of Fellowship, the Fellowship of the Ring, the 9 friends, we've been very fortunate on the show to have our own fellowship, our homies at home, as we like to call you. And of course, I think it's time that we hear from the homies at home in the fan questions.
Questions that need answering.
Every week on Instagram, I post a prompt, and I've been posting it on YouTube, although I forgot this week. I'm so sorry. I will do it next week for our YouTube only friends. That was totally my fault. Although I'm bad at reminding you guys, but if you want to put in a prompt or a question in the video this week for next week, I would be happy to pull those as well. Because next week, obviously, we're talking about Two Towers. So that's what the question is going to be about next week. So if you want to preemptively get a couple questions in there for next week, throw them in the comments of the YouTube video and I will pull them for next week. But I put up a prompt on the Instagram stories on either Tuesday evenings or Wednesday mornings, asking you guys your questions for the week. Sometimes you guys throw down questions. Sometimes you guys throw down comments. But either way, we like to read a few of them. So let's get right into it from the homies at home. Our first one from a Parkins Day. What's the most inspiring moment in Fellowship, and why is it Aragorn at Amon Hin?
I mean, that's pretty good. It's up there. But I was going to say, I feel like that it is also, I made a promise, Mr. Frodo. And I intend on keeping it.
That's a thing, man. You could pull so many.
There are. I mean, there's a lot and that's why we chose to do it this way, is that there's a lot of great character moments and lots of different types of character moments.
Yeah. Because let's be real, we could spend 4 episodes just talking about Fellowship.
Yeah, it's true.
Bill Rooklin. Thank you for being a member, Bill. I did see that. Thank you so much for that. We really appreciate that. Would you want Jackson to pull a Lucas and release added scenes? Maybe Bombadil. That's tough. Bombadil. So Tom Bombadil from the books is...
I don't know. I would like to. Did you hear about that one scene they filmed where it's Aragorn and Arwen when they first met?
Yes.
Yeah. Where I'm just like, that seems kind of interesting.
Yeah. I mean, I would take anything.
Yeah.
The book is structured in a very interesting way.
Yeah.
And Tom Bombadil immediately it's a side quest.
Yeah.
But he's also a very interesting character, and he sort of bookends the story.
Yeah.
Like he comes back in Return of the King for briefly. Gandalf goes to, he says he's going to go speak with him.
Yeah.
But Tom Bombadil has no interest in the ring.
Yeah.
He's the only character like that. He's just like, oh, whatever. He does a little magic trick with it.
Yeah.
I don't know how you do that in the movie and keep the pace, because
it's true. And then also he kind of breaks that wall that because again, the everything takes it so seriously, and he's not exactly the most serious character.
He's just singing all the time. And
yes.
That's another thing with the books is there's a lot of singing. There's a lot of silliness. These movies take a more serious approach.
Yes.
I think you would have to have a whole different type of movie. Maybe a TV show could do it if The Lord of the Rings was adapted into a TV show, which I don't know that I would be. I don't know. These movies are just so perfect.
They are.
And then follow up from Bill. What's the Hobbit version of pizza rolls? It's a great question.
The Hobbit version of pizza rolls.
Yeah, if the Hobbits had pizza rolls.
If the Hobbits had pizza rolls.
They could maybe do something with the
Lembas? Yeah, I would think it would be something like that.
Can you imagine that? Lembas pizza rolls? Totino's. Get on it.
I was about to say, can you just imagine you just take some Lemnis and then you put a little marinara sauce in there. throw a little cheese, a little bit.
Put a little salted pork on there.
Yeah, exactly. Goodness.
Get my mind rolling. Lembas pizza rolls. That might have to. Hot dang.
Just make it a calzone from Middle Earth.
Sir_Django_Fett, another member.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, dyadic duo. He's been calling us that lately in the comments. I think that's fun. No question or inquiries, just a comment. Happy 1-year anniversary. You're awesome. Not quite yet. We're getting there.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to tease it. August 25th marks 1 year of the show. Now, maybe we might have made the channel a little earlier. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But that was our first episode.
Yeah.
Was August 25th last year, which is coming fast. It's next Sunday.
Yeah.
All we'll say, we'll make a better announcement next week.
Yeah.
We're doing a live stream.
Yeah. We're just going to hang out.
As a bit of a celebration.
Yeah.
We're going to it's going to be Star Wars-y, by the way.
Yeah.
I know we're kind of enjoying our time in Middle Earth right now, so it'll be a nice time back in that galaxy far, far away for a little bit. So come hang out in the live stream August 25th afternoon sometime. Again, we'll make a better announcement, but just to tease that.
And thank you, Django.
Thank you, Janko.
Mm-hmm.
Appreciate it. Jake Harrison Fain, what is your favorite Lord of the Rings sword and why?
Ooh.
You might notice we have an addition to the set.
Yeah. Is that your favorite?
I don't know. I love Anduril, but
yeah.
I also really
I think it's cool when it's Narsil and broken.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's so sick. And then it was the broken blade that, cuts the ring from Sauron's hand. Yeah. Because that's a great scene between Aragorn and Boromir too. We don't need to talk about it, that's just,
it's great.
It's good stuff. Shooting from the hip, I really do like, I really like Aragorn's Ranger sword before he gets,
that's cool.
Yeah, before he gets Anduril. Yeah, or Anduril.
I like Glamdring.
Yeah, faux hammer.
I really like Glamdring. I like Sting. I've always been a big fan of Sting.
And it glows blue.
It does. Did you know that they so Glamdring should glow blue?
Yeah.
But it doesn't in this movie. You know why?
Why?
It looked too much like a lightsaber. So they kept it to just Sting.
Interesting. Okay.
Because I wondered that when we got to the Mines of Moria scene and Gandalf rips out a Glamdring, I was like, what? Pretty sure it's supposed to glow blue, right?
Yeah.
Thought that was interesting. But yeah, probably. What's yours? You're just
What?
the
I
Ranger
like
sword.
I like Aragorn's Ranger sword a lot. Simple design. I like it. And then, is it like Hadafang? It's Elrond. Like in this movie, Arwen uses it, but it's Elrond's blade that he uses in The Hobbit. I really like that one too.
Okay.
If you want him, come and claim him. Like I like the curved elf swords.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's so sick.
Alan DCG, hi. What
Hello.
would you say are the biggest strengths and weaknesses of the Fellowship at this point? The weaknesses, I think, are that they all are tempted by the ring.
Yeah.
Except for Gandalf, really.
Yeah. I mean, the strength is like the idea of the Fellowship, but the problem is that like when you start adding too many people to anything, it creates more potential problems, basically.
DLTRR _. Don't ruin this or say dumb stuff. I love you guys. I hope we did. I hope we did okay.
Yeah, I hope we did did justice.
Right.
Yeah, don't ruin this and say dumb stuff. Okay.
Wait, we know the reverence the Fellowship holds. Okay.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
Goodness. Okay.
Katiesaurus.rex favorite musical motif. Gosh, I don't know. That's hard.
It is. I like them all. I really like. I don't even know if it's a motif. I love when like when Sam's wrestling around and you get that whine on the strings as Gandalf grabs his stick and looks outside.
Okay.
Yeah, like that's great. I like. Man.
That's good too.
Which is apparently the Shire theme backwards. Michael told me that. The guy that helps us out with music.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Huh.
No.
Helps us out. He does the music. We don't do anything.
Yeah, I know, but I mean, like, yeah, that he, yeah.
I would have to say it's concerning hobbits.
That's a great.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Them walking past a rock at one point is pretty awesome.
Oh, that's great too. It's hard.
And then when they run to the bridge of Khazad-dùm, and then where it's just like, we're back, baby.
It's all great.
Yeah.
I don't know, man.
I don't know. I'm not sure, Katie. That's tough. It's all good.
Hungry Bookworm _ if you could live anywhere in Middle Earth, where would you live?
Rivendell.
Okay.
Yeah.
The Shire.
Yeah. Shire's a close second.
I just love that. That's my dream right there.
Yeah.
That's what I want to build.
Yeah. A hole in the ground.
No, just like a community like that. You
Yeah.
know, that's how I want to be. The J.C. Peterson, what if Boromir lived?
I mean, I feel like that would Merry and Pippin been taken then?
That's tough. It's like, does he
defeat Lurtz?
Yeah. And because if Merry and Pippin aren't taken, then Merry and Pippin don't defeat
Saruman.
Yes.
They aren't that they aren't like
because Merry and Pippin defeat Sauron with the Ents because they get taken by the orcs.
Yeah.
Or the Uruk-hai rather. I think the Fellowship have a lot harder time dealing with Sauron if Boromir
definitely
lives.
Yes.
Because if he lives, it implies that he does finish off the Uruk-hai.
Yes.
And then he joins with, because then then you have the 7 or the 6 rather.
Yeah.
Stay together.
Yeah.
You have Aragorn, Gimli, Legolas. And what do? Do they all go to Gondor?
It's true. And that's the whole thing is, would they actually go to Gondor? Because what happens when they meet his dad?
And then is Boromir upset that the ring is gone? Does Boromir insist that he chases after Frodo?
It's true.
Does the temptation overcome him again? Like they failed in their mission, they need to go. Maybe because the Fellowship isn't broken, they do go back after Frodo.
Yeah. But again, it's interesting. It's better that Sam and Frodo are by themselves because then it doesn't put nearly as big of a target on them.
Yeah.
Yeah. You have that many powerful players all moving together. People start to notice.
Mm.
Yeah.
Interesting. It's an interesting question. A lot of moving parts there.
Definitely.
League of Extraordinary Sixthers. How many times have you watched the extended editions?
I mean, let's see. Fellowship at least 5 times. At least.
For me, Lord of the Rings, for movies that I hold a very special place in my heart, I don't watch them all the time
Yeah.
because I want there to be a reason I'm watching it.
Yeah.
I don't want it to dilute,
Mhm.
you know, because I think the more you watch something, the more you consume it.
Yeah.
It's like eating your favorite meal every day.
Yeah.
So
Eventually you become kind of immune to it.
yeah.
Yeah.
So less than 5.
Build up a
Probably only,
build up a tolerance to it.
I want to say 3 times maybe.
Wow.
That's
Okay.
probably it. Ashton Sherritt. Thoughts on Rings of Power? Any excitement for season 2? Here's the thing, guys. I know we've gotten questions about Rings of Power.
Yeah.
I've not watched the show. I've watched a lot of clips from it, and I can't bring myself to watch it. And I'll tell you why. The show should not exist, in my opinion, in my personal opinion. If you don't know the behind how that show came to be, they don't have the rights to the actual Second Age, right? Amazon got the rights to the appendices of the Lord of the Rings, and they're kind of creating their own
Stuff to fill in the
version
blanks.
of this.
Yeah.
And remember what I said at the top of the show about Peter Jackson, about how he was so humble about creating these movies. He made sure Tolkien's voice was everywhere in these movies, everywhere. And say what you will about the Hobbit trilogy. I know it's not as good as these movies, but I think he tried in the same way.
Yeah.
He tried everything he could because he came in very late.
Yeah.
To do the same thing.
Yeah.
I don't think he was as successful in the Hobbit trilogy, but I think he tried the same thing. What Amazon is doing with the Rings of Power, beautiful production.
Yeah. Good looking show.
And it should be for the budget that it has.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that it has moments. I'm sure it does.
Yeah.
But the idea of, okay, we didn't get the rights to what we actually wanted to do. Oh, well, we got the Tolkien estate gave us this. We're going to make our own thing. I can't stand that. I don't like it when anybody does that. It frustrates me so much when anybody will take a source material and be like, you know what, I could do that better.
Yeah.
Why don't I put my own identity on it? It's like, why? It exists though. It's not like they're telling a story that took place before the first age or after the fourth age, you know, like they were going into the fifth age.
Yeah.
You know, what happens after Aragorn has become king and he's gone?
Yeah.
You know, it's not like they were doing that. That I have less of a problem with because like in Star Wars, we do that, right? We're kind of in that realm where like the sequel trilogy and all this stuff. This would be like, to compare it to Star Wars, because we're a Star Wars show. Imagine if Amazon decided, just to use them as an example, they decided, oh, you know what, we're going to tell the Clone Wars. But they didn't get rights to the Clone Wars. So they told a completely different story that goes against the lore of what actually exists in the story. Like, and maybe it's good.
Well, they just had to fill the holes. That's the whole thing. And like, so they had to just pick random things to fill the holes.
Exactly. So, it's like, and Gandalf, he's in it, but is he not in it? And he shouldn't be there at that point.
Yeah.
And that defeats a lot of what, like Gandalf was the last one to be sent.
If that's Gandalf.
If I know but they really imply that it is.
Yeah.
Now I will say season 2 looks better.
Yeah.
I think it looks more Tolkien-esque, but, and maybe the show is good on its face. Yeah. Like in and of itself.
Yeah.
I'm more than willing to concede that point. I haven't seen it. As a concept, the show frustrates me. So I have not watched it.
I've not watched it either. I like
for the
these
same
movies.
Reasons?
I like these movies. So, yeah.
Have you not watched it for the same reasons or just because you haven't watched it?
Similar. I heard it was kind of a train wreck behind the scenes and stuff like that because I think it's very odd. I guess if I was in their shoes, why not? You know, there's a whole nother land in Middle Earth. Like there's a whole, like across the ocean and stuff like that. And there was some other wizards besides Saruman and Radagast and Gandalf.
A show about the two blue wizards?
Yeah, the two blue wizards. Why not? Because then there's nothing about them. So you could literally do everything. You don't have to, you could play over there in your sandbox. It's kind of like, almost reminds me of like what Dave's doing on Peridia.
That's all I'm saying. Like do something like that. I'd be game. Like maybe I wouldn't like it, but at least, you're not sullying what exists.
Exactly.
Just because you had a rights issue and all that. That just, I really don't like the concept of it. It frustrates me. It gets my blood boiling a little bit. So for Rings of Power fans, I'm sorry. I'm glad you like the show if you're out there and you do enjoy it, but it is just like I said, as a concept, I just can't get behind it.
Yeah.
All right. I'm not sure how to pronounce this, so I'm just going to read the letters. PTRWDMDMNN. How important is the fact that this is no typical American Hollywood movie, but it's New Zealand made? I think it's quite important. I mean, it creates
definitely
an iconography that's unlike any other.
It's true. I mean,
As the tangibility.
I was going to say, I mean, they've kind of created a whole economy on that.
Yeah,
like people coming and visiting. I mean, it's part of their, there's coins with stuff on it. I mean, there is, you love coins. I was going to say, if you go to their airport, it's the first thing you see when you land. I mean, like, yeah, I mean, it's pretty cool that they've got a whole like ecosystem built around it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Star.wars.nerd00, Tales of Peridia. Been trying to get into the series for a while. Do you recommend starting with the original 3 movies, then go to the Hobbit movies, or vice versa? Easy question. Start with the Fellowship of the Ring.
Yes.
The Hobbit movies are not, it's not like Star Wars where there's the original trilogy, then the prequel trilogy. The Hobbit, you have to understand, was one book. It was kind of a shorter story. Like, look at the stack right here. I have all the 4 books. You see how much space the Hobbit takes up? It's the one on the very bottom versus the other 3. It should not have been a trilogy.
Yeah.
That's a conversation for another day. But the point is, the prequel trilogy builds up in a way, so you can make the chronological argument. But Lord of the Rings stands on its own, and it also references quite a bit. They were made as if the Hobbit already existed, if that makes sense, or if it was never going to be made. Because the story existed either way, unlike, say, the prequel trilogy, for example, to keep referencing. So you get a lot of references to The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings. So you're not missing anything by not watching The Hobbit first. But by the time you're done with The Lord of the Rings trilogy, The Hobbit is just kind of a nice icing on the cake. Like I said, it's not as good, but it's like a nice dessert.
It's a lot of icing, as you just said.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it's law of diminishing returns. Like, I think it starts pretty strong. And then then it slowly gets worse over time. But that's okay.
Every time there's a scene from the book, it's really good.
Yeah.
When they break away from that, which unfortunately is a lot of the movie, all the movies, and it's not as good. Kind of on this, BC_Scrubs, what did Fellowship do right that the Hobbit trilogy did wrong?
I mean, everything. I mean, that's what stinks. It's like, because there just wasn't enough time. That's the whole thing that, like, I mean, Howard Shore didn't even have enough time to compose enough stuff for it. They had to reuse things and where stuff was put. Like, even that's kind of jarring. Yeah. So, like, it just, There's a storied history behind the production of both The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings and the differences between the two. Yeah.
Jackson was not meant to direct those movies. It was also meant to be 2 movies, and then they split into 3 movies. Yep. Very similar story to Lord of the Rings, except for it didn't make sense for Lord of the Rings to do that. Very odd.
To be 2 movies, you mean?
Yeah, to be 2 movies. And then it didn't make sense for The Hobbit to be 3 movies.
Yeah.
But the studio had a lot of interference in The Hobbit. And there's also
like 9 producers. It's insane.
Yeah.
That everybody had a hand in this thing.
Is The Hobbit the one where Harvey Weinstein was one of the producers and Jackson threw a massive dig at him in the credits? Because there's like paintings. There's a cave troll.
Yeah.
And where his credit appears in the credits. Is that The Hobbit or is that Lord of the Rings?
I know that he looks like Gothmog.
Yeah. They modeled one of the.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure.
Story.
Yeah.
Because he was one of the people who kept stonewalling part of the process, from what I understand. I don't remember if it's for The Hobbit or for Lord of the Rings, though.
Yeah.
Fellowship was the lightning in the bottle.
Definitely.
Like, a lot of things kind of worked in their favor.
It feels the most practical of the 3. I think you hear all the good themes, in my opinion, in this one. Yeah. Yeah. That just... Yeah.
The Hobbit, unfortunately, is just a lot of CGI. I think the main thing that it does, though, adds too much that's not Tolkien's words. Yeah. And you can tell it's very jarring in The Hobbit. You can tell the most in the first one because the first one tries to be faithful the most in Unexpected Journey. The best scene in that movie is Riddles in the Dark, where Gollum and Bilbo are discussing the ring.
Yeah, having a riddle off, basically.
Yeah. That's a great scene.
It
And
is
feels
really good.
like these movies.
Yes, it is
But
very,
then
very good.
there's going down the river in the barrel,
Yeah.
Legolas jumping around. And there's also characters that shouldn't be there that really just feel like, hey, you remember the Lord of the Rings, huh?
Yeah. Well, look who's around because he was there at this time. But yeah, he's not.
Legolas is there. He shouldn't be there. And
No.
there's a...
I do really like that they do show what Gandalf's doing. And that they go, that I do like all that. Like
with the necromancer.
I love that in the third one where Galadriel like pushes back Sauron and all that. Like I just think that is good stuff.
Yeah,
the only thing I don't like about it is that it just kind of cuts off with Saruman saying, "Leave him to me," and then we just don't know anything of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You do get a lot of interesting sort of build up to Sauron, like why he turns in this movie.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah.
And final question from Josh Frice. What age did you first read it? And I'm going to just amend your question and say watch it because I read the books for the first time somewhat recently within the past couple of years. So what age did you first watch the movie?
I was in 8th grade when these came out.
8th grade.
8th grade. That's why when I was a wee lad, it was very, I was all about the fights and stuff like that. I'm like, I don't care about the Shire and all that. Like, it's cool, I guess, but like, get me to Amon Hen, get me to Moria. Now I kind of dread those moments because members of the Fellowship don't come back when they go to those places.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I first watched it. I'm going to save a lot of my personal stories for our live stream coming up, our 4th episode of this series, our final episode of our Lord of the Rings series. But I first watched them, I believe, was I in middle school as well, or was I in high school? If I was in high school, it was like early high school.
Mm-hmm.
So probably around the same time as you did.
Yeah.
Just a different time.
Yeah.
Movies had been out for a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. There you go.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you guys so much for participating in the fan questions. And thank you guys so much for being here next week. Of course, we will continue our journey.
Yes. Where there are 2 towers.
Into the 2 towers.
Mm-hmm.
What are the 2 towers? Another little lore question there to answer. If you know, let us know. People will only watch the movies. You're like, what are you talking about? There's only 2.
Yeah.
Is there only 2? Yeah, 2 towers. We'll be continuing that next week.
Mm-hmm.
Star Wars fans, we do have Star Wars videos coming out. We have 2, one of which should probably already be up by the time you're watching this video. I don't know if it's our crawl tier list. We also filmed kind of a D23 sort of, not reaction, but a discussion about some of the things that were announced there, like the Mando and Grogu trailer, the Andor trailer that we totally didn't watch, by the way, because they were only leaked and not officially released. But the officially released Skeleton Crew trailer. And then we have a couple really fun videos, Star Wars related, coming here pretty soon. One in particular I'm really excited about. Be on the lookout for that. So a lot of fun to be had out beyond the Dune Sea, but also just hanging out in the Dune Sea as well while we're on this journey to Middle Earth. And as we teased earlier, we have 2 live streams coming up. We have our 1-year anniversary, August 25th, probably be in the afternoon at some time. We'll let you know for sure when we have that, probably next week. Be on the lookout for that. We'll let you know before the show next week. Maybe put out a reel or something. Just be on the lookout for that. And then our final episode on our Lord of the Rings series here, because we're doing Fellowship, 2 Towers, Return of the King. We're doing a wrap up with our Lord of the Rings origin stories, kind of like we did with Star Wars, talking about some of our personal stories about the Lord of the Rings. And so, yeah, just kind of talking a lot about that. I met a member of, not a member of the Fellowship, but a member of this movie. We had a very brief brush-in with a member of the Fellowship.
That was wild.
Yeah.
Yes.
Just, keep that on the DL for
now.
now.
I won't say anything.
Yeah.
I don't want to talk about it.
So be on the lookout for that. That'll be really fun. And we'll see you guys next week in the 2 Towers. Same Dune time. Same Dune channel. Seth, what time is it?
It's Dune in time.
That's right. We'll see you next week.